Hello, good Friday, everybody. Welcome. Hello. A lot of chatting going on. Joey is first. Thank you, Joey, for commenting first. And hello, Clarissa, Owen, Lauren, Ryan, Evelyn, Grace, and/or Luke. Hello, Emily, as well. Thank you guys for joining. Did I say Evelyn? I think I did. It's hard to keep track of everyone in the list when it's all going out of order, but thank you guys for joining in. I'm sure we'll get a couple other people hopping on. Evelyn likes our intro music. Thank you. That's this is all like royalty-free music from Storyblocks, so it's I like it too. It's kind of fun. This like royalty-free music has come a long way. It used to be like really bad and boring, but it's a lot better now. So, but yeah. So yes, Good Friday. Tonight is the Good Friday service at 6:30. The Zoom Good Friday service. So this is we're gonna try it. We're gonna see what happens. So definitely a Good Friday to remember. And this is the last Ignite live stream, so sorry about that. We're still going to be making videos for you guys, and they'll be released on YouTube at 4:30 Monday through Friday, so there'll still be a consistent time for you guys. Just with Caitlin's work schedule, she actually went back to work today. It was her first day back in the hospital, so her job today was to check in everybody into the hospital. So she sat and had to take everyone's temperature and give them a mask and Purell their hands and ask them a whole bunch of questions. So and already she's been asked to work Monday night. So that's right when I would have been live streaming. So we're trying to have the best of both worlds, care for you guys, and also have Caitlin care for the people at the hospital while we take care of our two young kiddos at home. So it's always a tricky balance, but I definitely would love to keep up the live streaming, but I think just trying to keep everything in balance. So, but still be checking us out right here on YouTube at 4:30. We're also going to be posting to Instagram as well, a bunch more. Probably Facebook and Twitter too. We're still working through that. So, random question: how many of you guys actually use Twitter? Does anybody? Any of you guys or any of you avid tweeters? Thank you for praying for Caitlin. Yes, we need that. But yeah, do you guys use Facebook and/or Twitter? I feel like that's not a super common thing for people in your age group. But yeah, we'll still be posting to Instagram and YouTube for sure. Owen does not use the Twitter. But yeah, I used to use Twitter a lot, and then I got hacked, and I had literally I was forced to follow like thousands of random accounts. But I erased it all, so I'm back up and running now. So I might start diving into Twitter. So it's good for debating. But anyway, so let me know what you guys use. Also, too, we have the opening question for today is going to be, what is your favorite piece of clothing? What is the most favorite piece of clothing that you wear? I asked a similar question a little while ago. What is your most expensive piece of clothing? So the question is not what is most expensive. It is what is your most favorite. They could be the same thing. For me, I answered my wedding ring is like my most expensive piece of clothing. Rings are kind of clothing, but I would say my favorite piece of clothing is either my hat that I'm wearing right now. It is not expensive and it's kind of fallen apart, but I kind of like it even more because of that. And Caitlin also got me this really super nice jacket fleece thingamabob. Like I'm losing another thread here, so. Eesh. So I'd say these two right now are my favorite things. So, and the reason that we're talking about clothing is because there's a really important word that the Bible uses a lot. It's important to know. It's called the remnant, and we use the word remnant for if you had a piece of cloth or a piece of clothing and it kind of fell apart, and all you had was a little bit left, you would have a little bit left of that shirt, and that little piece is called a remnant. And so maybe like if my hat continues to completely fall apart, all I'll have is a little bit left, and you could say that is a remnant. And so when the Bible talks about the remnant, it's not talking about, I don't know, Jesus's favorite piece of clothing or anything like that. He's talking about the Jewish people, the Israelites, the Jewish people. In their super long history, they disobeyed God, and God punished them. And a foreign army came in, and I'm doing a lot of summarizing here, but essentially they came in and then kicked them out and then spread them all over the world. And so that little piece of those little pieces of Jewish people, especially that still believed in God, that were left, you had everyone, and in theory everyone believed in God, but then they were all scattered and the armies came in and blew them all out of the water. Those people that are left are called the remnant. So similar to like a little piece of your favorite clothing, a little piece, a leftover of people who still believe in God back in the day. So you guys' favorite piece of clothing are shorts and a sweatshirt. Same thing with Lauren, comfy clothes. Evelyn has a piece of comfy flare pants, wild orange and black patchwork, funky pants. Nike Air Forces, that's pretty cool. I didn't see what the original chat was, but it just says Owen Slayton, message retracted, and then Evelyn being like, huh? I didn't get the chance to see what he said. That's funny. I wonder if I can look it up. Report. No. So he removed it. I guess it was a typo, so I'll have to try and... I think it's gone forever, so I won't be able to see it, but that's really funny. But anyway, yeah, so we're talking about the remnant. The remnant of Israel is what we have in Romans chapter 11. Oopsies. Yeah. We have, Romans chapter 11, so let's read that. Let's pray first. Jesus, I pray that you help us connect with you as we're reading the Bible now. Also, help us connect with you tonight and everyone else tonight for Good Friday. Help us remember this Good Friday. I don't think we're going to have to, or it's going to be easy to forget this one, but help us remember it, not just because the virus was here and we were all in this quarantine thing, but that we really were able to meet with you and connect with you and understand more about you and just in a new way, in a real powerful way. Thank you for, as always, your presence with us and us being able to connect through technology. In your name, amen. So we have the remnant of Israel. Let's read chapter 11. I ask then, did God reject his people? By no means. I am an Israelite myself, a descendant of Abraham. From the tribe of Benjamin, God did not reject his people, whom he foreknew. I'll put that in red. That's a whole predestination confusing thing. Don't you know what Scripture says in the passage about Elijah, how he appealed to God against Israel? Lord, they have killed your prophets and torn down your altars. I am the only one left, and they are trying to kill me. And what was God's answer to him? I have reserved for myself 7,000 who have not bowed the knee to Baal. So too, at the present time, there is a remnant chosen by grace, and if by grace, then it cannot be based on works. If it were, grace would no longer be grace. Again, yeah, so he's talking about Paul and God, or all them. They're talking about, in this particular case, back in the Old Testament, 7,000 people who everyone else kind of turned away from God, but there was one little part, one little piece of the fabric, one little group of people left. And even when Paul is writing this, he's talking about there at the present time there is a remnant, there is a group of people who still believe in God, and they're chosen. Again, that's the whole confusing predestination mind loop thing, but they are chosen. God chose them, but they also still have free will, otherwise it wouldn't be love and all that good stuff. But there's this group of people there that have faith and who believe in God. And yeah, that's a whole theme about Romans. They're talking about Jewish people who were part of a country. They were part of a big family. They were part of the church and the government. Everything was all in one thing. And then you have non-Jewish people, the Gentiles, how they're kind of getting mixed in here, and they all can believe in God. And then he goes on, what the people of Israel sought so earnestly, they did not obtain. The elect among them did, but the others were hardened. As it is written, God gave them a spirit of stupor, eyes that could not see, and ears that could not hear, to this very day. And David says, may their table become a snare and a trap, a stumbling block and a retribution for them. May their eyes be darkened so they cannot see, and their backs be bent forever. And again, so I might actually change this to a red one. So again, he's talking about, and when the Bible talks about, I think of like Pharaoh back in the Old Testament, it talks about how God hardens Pharaoh's heart. It talks about how his heart was just hardened, and it also talks about how Pharaoh hardened his own heart. So again, there's this like confusing predestination, God choosing everyone. Also, we have free will, and so, and this thing, this passage here, he's talking more about focusing more on like God gave them a spirit of stupor, so God shows them to not believe in him. So that gets confusing, but that's what he's talking about here. So yeah, he's kind of setting the stage for this really cool part here, talking about engrafted branches. And so for this question, this section, the question I want to ask you guys is, what is your favorite fruit and or vegetable? Maybe you like neither, but what is your favorite fruit and or vegetable? I like vegetables far more than fruit. So if I had to say a fruit, I would say probably an apple. I only like Granny Smith apples. If I liked a vegetable, probably it's going to go, I'm going to go with potatoes for that one. I love me a good potato. I couldn't see what that emoji was at first, Owen. I was like, oh no, he's typing weird things again. Just kidding. Owen likes bananas, which is pretty cool. Lauren likes broccoli and or bananas too. My girls just had banana earlier, so I used to like bananas, not so much anymore. So one time at youth group years ago, we made a kid eat a banana, and he'd never eaten a banana before. And we're like, what? But he ate it for the first time, and he liked them from then on out. But I remember that day. That was a weird day. Ooh, Evelyn likes watermelon. Yeah, pineapple. I don't like pineapple either, so no good. I don't really like watermelon. Again, so I'm more of a vegetable guy than a fruit guy. But anyway, so in this section, Paul is using an illustration. Again, I love illustrations. I use them a lot when I teach and I talk with people. And so he's using this is like a really famous, and this section too, just a heads up, there's confusing as well. And there's different interpretations from really super smart Christians, like way smarter than me. He's talking about an engrafted branch. So I want to show you guys a picture of what that means. There's a whole Wikipedia article on this, and there's like YouTube videos and all this other stuff too, but it's really cool. So what people did back then, people can do today, is that you have like a tree of some sorts, or I don't know, some plant of some sort. And what you can do is you have the tree, it's there, and then you can kind of cut a sliver into it, and then you can take another part from a whole different tree and then engraft that branch into it. And so that branch, if you were to take it out, like the branch, when it's disconnected from the tree, will just eventually die. But you can kind of cut it, and you put the wrappings, and it's kind of complicated, and you really need to know what you're doing. But you put it in there, and that new branch will then be able to feed off of like the trunk and the roots and everything like that of the new tree. And so this picture is what they did. I'm not sure exactly what type this is, but you have like the main tree is like all the white flowers, and someone engrafted a branch with pink flowers, and that will come back year after year after year. And it's actually really cool. You can actually have trees with different fruits on it, which is like really crazy. And I've heard of people having like one main, like a tree, but it has like 4 or 5 different types of apples in it, or like an apple tree and an orange tree combined into one. I've heard of people, even in the Wikipedia article I was reading before here, you can graft in, like, you'd have to be really good at this, but you can graft in a potato plant and a tomato plant at the same time, and so it's like maximizes your space. And so you can have different things kind of combined into one new tree. And Paul uses this analogy to talk about, again, I'm just going to say, to talk about the church. I'm going to say that you have Jewish people, like that remnant, who truly believe in God. So it's Jewish people who back then, it was like the church, your family, your church, and your government was all one thing. And all those things running on full steam believed in God. And that remnant, though, those people who truly believe, that's like the true tree. And so they were Jewish people, but engrafted into that were non-Jewish people. So people like me, I'm not Jewish at all. And out of that new tree is this kind of combination tree. So you have non-Jewish people and Jewish people together. So it's kind of like an apple and orange tree, or a tomato potato plant. So does that make sense? It's kind of like a weird a Franken-Tree, yes. Like, I think that has to be the title for sure. Welcome to the Franken-Tree, or something like that. So it is kind of freaky and it is kind of weird. So but that's the analogy here. So let's dive in here. And so we're going to read the next section. Starts with verse 11. Franken-Tree, that's a good one. So again, I ask, did they, talking about the original Jewish people, did they stumble as to fall beyond recovery? Not at all. I love that part. Jesus can forgive anything. But rather, because of their transgression, salvation has come to the Gentiles to make Israel envious. But if their transgression means riches for the world, their loss means riches for the Gentiles, how much greater riches will their full inclusion bring? Yeah, that part is kind of confusing, and you have to kind of parse it out and figure it out. But he's talking about the Jewish people messed up. They killed Jesus. They didn't understand what he was about, but because Jesus died on the cross, which we remember tonight, because Jesus died, we can have forgiveness. So like, they messed up really bad, but it's good for everyone because God can now forgive us. I'm talking to you, Gentiles, inasmuch as I am the apostle to the Gentiles. So Paul is the I here. So Paul he has a mission to non-Jewish people to spread the good news about God. I take pride in my ministry in the hope that I may somehow arouse my own people to envy and save some of them. So he's using strong language there, but it's just a metaphor. For if their rejection brought reconciliation to the world, what will their acceptance be but life from the dead? If the part of the dough offered as first fruits is holy, then the whole batch is holy. If the root is holy, so are the branches. So he's talking about, again, similar idea that the Jewish people messed up. They killed Jesus, but he offers forgiveness for us all. We can go into that. He has another analogy here about dough and stuff like that. So, but this is the really cool part. If some of the branches have broken off, so those are the Jewish people who didn't believe, and you, though a wild olive shoot, have been grafted in among the others, and now share in the nourishing sap from the olive root. Do not consider yourself to be superior to those other branches. If you do, consider this. You do not support the root, but the root supports you. You will say then, branches were broken off so that I could be grafted in. Granted, but they were broken off because of unbelief. And if you stand by faith, do not be arrogant, but tremble, for if God did not spare the natural branches, he will not spare you either. And again, so he's using that whole analogy about so the main Jewish people, you have that main tree who did believe, a bunch of them didn't believe, and so kind of like their branches fell off, they were disconnected from the tree. But this whole new different tree were combined into one to make this big Franken-Tree. And he's also talking about Jewish people. They can be, he said this a little bit earlier, Jewish people can be forgiven again, and that will kind of graft them back into the tree. So again, so that there's that whole analogy, that whole Franken-Tree analogy. Consider therefore the kindness and sternness of God, sternness to those who fell, but kindness to you, provided that you continue in his kindness. Otherwise you will also be cut off. And if they do not persist in unbelief, they will be grafted in. If they do not persist in unbelief, so if they persist to believe, they will be grafted in, for God is able to graft them in again. After all, if you cut off an olive tree that is wild by nature, and contrary to nature were grafted into a cultivated olive tree, how much more readily will these, the natural branches, be grafted into their own olive tree? Yeah, so he talks about, again, too, there's forgiveness for non-Jewish people and Jewish people alike. And it's our unbelief, it's our sin that disconnects us. Oopsies. It's our sin that disconnects us from God. It's our unbelief that disconnects us. And all we have to do is believe and ask for forgiveness, and we can be grafted in back into that tree, back into that church family. And then this part is so easy to understand. Not at all. It's like probably one of the most confusing parts of the whole Bible, but maybe not the most confusing. It's up there though. I do not want you to be ignorant of this mystery, brothers and sisters, so that you may not be conceited. Israel has experienced a hardening in part until the full number of the Gentiles has come in, and in this way all Israel will be saved, as it is written, the deliverer will come from Zion, he will turn godlessness away from Jacob, and this is my covenant with them when I take away their sins. As far as the gospel is concerned, they are enemies for your sake, but as far as election is concerned, they are loved on an account of the patriarchs. Super confusing. For God's gift and his call are irrevocable, just as you were at one time disobedient to God and have now received mercy as a result of their disobedience. So they too now become disobedient in order that they too may now receive mercy as a result of God's mercy to you. For God has bound everyone over to disobedience so that he may have mercy on them all. So this is the super confusing part. Paul talks about how all Israel will be saved. So like it depends on how you define all Israel. Is Paul, I wish, when Paul originally wrote these letters, like he would write the letter. Sometimes he had someone else write it that had better handwriting. They were professional scribes. And so he would work with them and write it down, and then he would send a courier, and he would explain kind of what the whole message was, and that courier was really valuable to Paul, really important. And that person would go to the people and read the letter and maybe explain some questions and stuff like that. So this would be, if I had that opportunity, I would say, Paul, what exactly did you mean here? When you say all Israel, what exactly do you mean? Do you mean, so back then, like your family, it's like one big, huge family. It's one big, huge government thing. And it's also the church. So all those things were combined into one thing. And when he says all Israel will be saved, is he talking about everything again? So is he talking about how Israel will be one thing again? It will be a country, it will be a family, it will be like a religion. So you have like a theocracy again, similar to now we have the state of Israel. Or is Israel, does he mean now this Franken-Tree? Does he just mean just the people who believe? Does he just mean the Israelites, just the people who believe, the Jewish people and the non-Jewish people? And especially when he talks about they are loved on account of the patriarchs, does he mean that, I don't know, that the people, that like the people who don't believe, they're still going to be forgiven? Like, I'm not saying I believe that. I think you still need Jesus, and you need to believe in him. But you have to kind of wrestle with these statements and what exactly did Paul mean? How does he define all Israel? And even before, he talks about like all Israel is not true Israel, and so this is just really confusing. And I think part of the hopefully the helpful part of these live streams is that you get to see me look this up, and I'm always going to be honest with you guys. If there's a part in the Bible that's confusing, I'm going to talk it through, and I'm not going to, I'm not going to make something up just to make it appear easier to understand. I think if God really wrote the Bible, then there's going to be parts in it that only God understands, and we have to figure that out. So in part of my faith and part of my encouragement in being a Christian is that there are parts of the Bible that are confusing to read. Because if I understood it all, then that means I don't know, then essentially that I'm as smart as God. And that's just not the case. So I love when I read this stuff and I have to figure out what it means. And super smart Christians have different takes on how to interpret this one section here. So, but yeah, so it's all right to read it. It's all right to wrestle with it. But for me, I always focus on what are the things that that I really like, that I really understand more, that really apply to my life. And that's why one of the reasons we use this here method, like highlight. You don't have to highlight the confusing parts. Highlight the parts that you do understand that God is trying to speak with you to. So this last section, oh, the depth of the riches of the wisdom and knowledge of God, how unsearchable his judgments and his paths beyond tracing out. Who has known the mind of the Lord, or who has been his counselor? Who has ever given to God that God should repay them? For from him and through him and for him are all things. To him be the glory forever. Amen. So Paul ends that whole section with like kind of a big prayer. And so that is Romans chapter 11. What are some numbers? So type in some numbers, and I can talk about this last section. And I like this verse 34. Cross-reference is Isaiah 40 and Job. Yes, I was thinking it was from Job. Yeah, again, so God is the one in control. He is a lot smarter than me, and I'm never going to understand everything about God. And that's all right. That means he's God. I think if God really did exist, then we wouldn't understand him. And so I think for me, yeah, that's encouraging to my faith. So, and that kind of sums up that whole section. But I think Paul kind of knows that the stuff he's talking about is really confusing. So everyone likes 34 and 35. Yeah, that's good. Who has ever given to God that God should repay them? It's true. It's a good verse. I'm trying to think, those aren't, like verse 26 here is a pretty famous verse, but it's famous not because it's like, it really clearly summarizes the gospel and what Christians believe. It's kind of, it's one of those verses that people really interpret differently. And whole different denominations of churches, kind of, some churches really focus on these verses and stuff like that. Talks about dispensationalism, if you ever are bored and want to Google that. So, but for me, the highlight I'm going to choose for this live stream, the last one, especially for Good Friday, I thought it fit in really well. Verses 21 here. So, for if God did not spare the natural branches, he will not spare you either. And so that might sound like harsh at first. But yeah, let me hear me out and let me walk you through this. So that's my highlight. And so explain what it means in this section. So he is warning the Gentiles here. So where is it here? I like this 18 here. He's kind of responding to that. So if you're not Jewish, do not consider yourself to be superior just because you have faith in God. And so what he's saying here is, yes, you don't. What matters is faith. It doesn't matter what country you're from or what family you're from. It matters faith in God. And he's warning people to continue in that faith, continue in your relationship with God. But this section too, he talks about like everyone is messed up, everyone has sinned, and God is just. Like we love and we serve a just God. He's a loving God, but he's just, and so just like a judge can't just let you go just because he likes you. Like there is this thing called justice. There's this thing called fairness. There is right and wrong. And God has to do something about it. And so for if God did not spare the natural branches, he will not spare you either. Like sin is sin. It doesn't matter, again, what family you're from or what country you're from. And we know here, like the answer to that is we have faith and forgiveness through Jesus, and we remember that when he died on the cross, and so that's what Good Friday service is about tonight. And for me, when I so that was the E part, the A part, the explaining it. When I think about that, I remember I was volunteering I was in college, and I was volunteering at a lifeguard at a Christian camp, and everyone was in kind of like the session, and they were hearing about sin and the cross and all that stuff. And so the pool was closed because everyone was at like the big meeting and stuff like that. So I went in just to listen to it again. I just wanted to listen and hang out with them. And it just really hit me, and I heard that message a lot before. I heard about how everyone has sinned, everyone has messed up. But God really revealed to me just in a fresh new way, and he was talking, like I felt God talking to me, and he was saying, like, Josh, like you are special, like you have a unique personality, a unique gift mix, and you are you, and I made you to be you, and you have your own plan, and I have my plan for you, I should say. You have your own path, but I'm not unique. Like, I'm special, but I'm not unique. Like, I grew up as a pastor's kid, and I think if I was truly honest with myself, I would say, like, oh yeah, like it was a heart issue. It's like, oh, I grew up in the church, and so this whole part about Jesus dying on the cross, that's nice and all, but I don't really need that because because I don't know, I grew up in the church, so I'm kind of special. Like I'm a little bit superior. And I would never say that out loud, but I think that's just how was a subconscious thing, and God just really spoke to me like that. And this verse reminded me of that time. So, like, God did not spare the people who grew up in the Jewish tradition and faith and family and government and all that stuff, and he won't spare me either. I'm special, and I have all my unique characteristics, but I'm not unique. Like, I'm not exempt from being sin, and I'm not exempt from having to need Jesus. And so that really stuck out to me, and as I was reading that, and I always remind myself that I need to be forgiven. I believe that Jesus died once, and he forgave sins, and if we're called and chosen, and we're grafted into that family, and we're new creations, those are really powerful languages, powerful language that the Bible uses. And so I don't think you can really lose your salvation if you really had it. But I still go through the motions. I still remember that Jesus died for me, and I still, when I say, God, please forgive me, even though I know he will, and when he died and I became a Christian, he forgave my past sins, my present sins, and even my future sins. But so all that stuff I've been thinking about in this verse 21, and tonight when Jesus died on the cross. Like, God will not spare us, but he didn't spare his son either, so we can have forgiveness. So with that, let's just respond in prayer. Keep hitting the wrong buttons there. I need to move that one at the top. Anyway, let's respond in prayer, and then we can ask for. I really like that Franken-Tree thing, but we'll talk about some details tonight, and then I'll sign off for the last time for this Friday live stream. So, Jesus, thank you so much for dying on the cross. Thank you that you did not spare your son. Thank you that we live in a universe that there is right and wrong. There's good and bad. Like, our decisions matter. Thank you that for giving us free will, but at the same time, thank you for choosing us. I pray you help us understand you more, help us understand the cross a little bit more tonight. Use this whole virus season just to kind of stir us up a little bit and get us prepared to do what you want us to do. And I pray thank you for the folks that have been able to join me in the live stream. Look forward to interacting with them in the chat and on different social medias in the future too, and also future live streams. Help us plan well and help us get some fun programming. Give us energy to keep this awesome programming going, even when we can't meet together in person. So thank you as always for the technology, but more so thank you for Jesus, and thank you for the Holy Spirit. In your name, amen. So yeah, get some music going here. So yeah, what is... I like that whole Franken-Tree title. So something about a Franken-Tree is amazing. Maybe something like don't fall from the Franken-Tree, or just the Franken-Tree. I think that's a great line. Or something about fruit and the Franken-Tree. I don't know, but that's a great. So thank you so much, Evelyn, for that. Thank you guys for watching. So yeah, so Good Friday service tonight at 6:30. So I'm excited for that. Again, so this is the last live stream at 4:30, but still check us out on YouTube at 4:30. There will still be Monday through Friday content. Still sticking with the reading plan. They'll just be a little bit simpler. They won't be quite as interactive on video, but I'll definitely interact with you guys on the comments, and it'll be premiered, so it'll feel kind of live streamy. Yeah, and I'm excited too to do legit live streams too coming up. We have to work on some details with that though, but still excited. Maybe like once a week thing, or I don't know, once every, might just be kind of random stuff. So but yeah, I'm excited for all this. Still excited to continue connecting with you guys through technology for as long as this virus thing keeps us at home. So thank you so much. Especially thank you to everyone. Speaking of a remnant, I think you guys are the ones. Hey Jacob, thank you Jacob for joining and praying. Yeah, thank you guys for being kind of the remnant who have stuck through and watched these things live and chatted live. I really do appreciate that. So, but yeah, we will definitely see you again. Definitely in person once this whole virus thing is over, but definitely tonight at 6:30, and then also Monday again at 4:30. So thank you guys. I'll see you next time. Peace.